Within 30 seconds, if you click on the color mission, there's already a like.
Yeah? Oh, wow.
Actually, 10 to 15 people watch each video.
Wow.
It's
good. It's good. Okay, good. That's good. This is an undersort herring. Alle Sug herrings. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ah, yeah, 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 Wow, tonight is Taka Emes of Farbrengen. We got all the real stuff, the herring and shkef, all that were matriach begufim b'mamoinim. And what was your father? You just tonight is your father's yahrzeit? Huh? Today's your father's yahrzeit? Oh yeah, you were the Leib, Ben Noach, and Menachem in Yisrael, and your father, Choshev and Magachir in Yeshivas Chaim Berlin, who wrote many svarim and had scholars from.
50 minutes each.
Oh yeah, that I didn't know.
Yeah,
I saw that your father has a scum on all of his svarim from the Moshe Weinstein.
Right.
That I see.
Yeah.
So his father, and very warm haskama. His father was Al-Tzad Apella from the Rosh Yeshivas in Chaim Berlin. So Zalzain Leila Nishmas, and your father sent you Lubavitch. So that's why you.
15 minutes. 5-0. We gotta find out. What it is. He'll come back.
L'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, so first I want to start off. I get, again, maybe Gula Loilam, I get some information over here from people. It's Gavaldik. I get a text right before Shabbos. This is the best Shabbos. Mr. Rabbi Talansky says that there's Svarim that say that the ninth month, which is Kislev, and the ninth day, which is the ninth of Kislev, and the ninth hour, person that's born on that day is going to be a tzaddik, and every person that's mispal on that day is.
Amrit made a big thing about it.
So yes, I checked it.
1:45.
I checked.
1:54.
Yeah,
AM or 9 p.m.
1:45 p.m. to 1:54
all the Svarim
p.m.
it starts off from the Slonim Rebbe. He writes that from the Matzosi b'shem Sefer Bris Menucha shekosav kechodesh tishiu bo yom tishiu b'shot shis v'muchonas ma'oid latzloch shezeg neged agalgul tishiu shebchinas tzin yesoid tzin kol shef. And he has a whole mimer on this called Hevdel Horakia. Okay, so even though in Mitzvah next week. Sometime we'll talk about that. The Rebbe did mention there's a Sefer Shalosh Tshuvos Min HaShamayim that has mentioned about Yud Kislev, obviously years before Yud Kislev happened. But we'll talk about it. The Rebbe never mentioned this, but still it's in Torah, and I found it. It's Taka Emes brought they here one place wrote that Shamati Manoshim Nemonim Ki Hagon Chaim Kanievsky Shlita Pokad B'Shor Kedosh Zu Esrit Beis Mikdashenu. Okay, shine. So we're it's 250 years since the Yom Haledes of that the Mittel Rebbe was born in the 9th month, 999, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mamalash Nesem Yemeim V'Shnashem Tzad Tzadikim. He was born and passed away the same day, 54 years later, and also Chag Yulas today. And actually the same Kvius was a Shabbos. He found out B'Shas he was finishing off his Drush Chassidus. He found out that the next day he's going to be freed. So it's the same Kvius as this year. So there's something choshev about today's Farbrengen. Okay. So before we start, there is a story that the Rebbe said many times about the Mittel Rebbe, which l'choida is, if you in the face of it, is not a compliment to the Friedrich, to the Mittel Rebbe. That the Mittel Rebbe told the story. That the Mittel Rebbe and the Alter Rebbe shared a house. The Mittel Rebbe lived on the second floor, and the Alter Rebbe lived on the first floor. It was once, it seems that the women were not home. Whatever, they went out to the marketplace, and the Alter Rebbe was Oisik B'Toyd in his room, in his apartment. The Mittel Rebbe was Oisik B'Toyd in his room, in his apartment, the second floor. In the meantime, the mommy had left the baby sleeping in a little cribby, and she thought everything would be good. The problem was that the baby slipped out of the cribby, and the baby started to cry. And the Mittel Rebbe was so misamek in his Torah, he did not hear the baby cry. The Alter Rebbe came upstairs, he opened the door, took the baby, the eingewicht, put her back in, she fell asleep. He took care of the baby. She fell asleep, but he put the baby back, covered her up, gegangen downstairs. The Mittel Rebbe didn't know that the Alter Rebbe walked in, walked out. He had no idea what happened. And the Alter Rebbe didn't stand him in his learning Torah. Elamai, later he gave him Musar. And he asked him, how you talking, that he didn't, how is it possible that a little baby, a Yiddish kind, falls out of the cribby and it cries and it's nicht gehört? How come you didn't hear? So the Rebbe made an unbelievable deal out of this story. The bottom line is that the Rebbe said that in this generation there's Jewish people that they cry, they don't know they're crying, but the emes is, the neshama is crying, and we have to hear them crying. And we can't say we're busy in our own learning Torah, and therefore we didn't hear them crying. That's the Nakuda of the Rebbe told the story, Barichas Gedoyla and Kedarke B'Kodesh with Lavas Eish. So just to give you a little, to appreciate the story, there is a little sefer called Sipurim Noiroim, and the Rebbe said that when it was his Sheva Brachas, his father-in-law gave him a copy of this little sefer, which he told him in the Sheva Brachas, from Rabbi Yaakov Kadaner, and he said that in time of Sheva Brachas is not the time to be Misamek and Limud Torah. but Vatul Klumi Efshir, so his father-in-law was scared that he's going to end up somewhere. So his father-in-law gave him the book that he should read stories. And so this storybook called Sipurim Neiron is there's a chassid, Rabbi Yaakov Kadane, who was a vice Talmid Chochem, and he wrote several svarim. But he wrote a sefer Sipurim, either Sipurim that he saw or Sipurim that he heard, and he writes the name of the person. He Shamati Miploini or Shamati Miploini. So several of this. So he tells a story about a Malamed that he knew, a Malamed that was teaching in the house of the Mittler Rebbe. And the Mittler Rebbe was at Shklov for a few days. Yesterday I told a story about the Mittler Rebbe in Shklov and the Beis Rebbe, that the Mittler Rebbe was in Shklov, and he told sorry, it wasn't the Shklov, it was in anyway, it was in a town. That he said a maimon in the big base medrash, and and why is it that the beginning of the pasuk is Yud Kislev and Nemishin Adnus, and there was a homasnagdim in the town. They started laughing that if you look in the pasuk, it says twice Yud Kislev. It doesn't say one time this way, one time that way. And the Mittler Rebbe said, "What kind of question is this? Why don't they look in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah and Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, and the Tosfos brings up Sikta that says that the real Girs in the pasuk is once Yud Kislev and once Adnai." So they said they realized that the Alter Rebbe's Gadlus was also in Shas Poiskim, but he said that there was a Malamed that was teaching in his house that told them that when they came back from Shklov, again, it wasn't Shklov, it was a different town, I forgot. And he was already there for a few days. He was busy, and people came to Yechidus, and he said Machzidus. So, and it was very cold that night. And he told the wagon driver that Madavgen Schnell, he wants to get back to Lubavitch because he has to get back to his regular Seder. So they were going so fast that one of the horses died. So the Mittler Rebbe said, Mach nishtois, we'll go with the other horse. Just let's get going. So the guy said, we're going to die. It's so cold. Let's stop in a place. We'll take a glazel kava and we'll go. The Mittler Rebbe said, I can't wait. I can't. There's something very important. I have to go. And they came home. So the guy went to take the horses, but the Malama said he walked into the house. The Mittler Rebbe was so busy, he didn't get a chance to take off his coat. He was a Gemara that he was in the middle of learning, but it was already a few days he was out of his Seder. He picked up the Gemara and he stood by a shtender. In the morning, they had to let him know that it's already Higiyazman Krishma Shel Shachis. So this was one story that he tells. Another story he told, it's an interesting story. Two stories I want to say. One is about Mittler Rebbe, he said, had a friend. When they were very young, they were learning together B'chavrusa. They both got married, both turned 14, the right old age, 14 or 15, and got married. And 3 years later, when they were both 18, this friend, his father-in-law was a Gvir, and he went into the business of his father-in-law. They were Chassidim. They were out of a Chassidim. He was a businessman now. And the Mittler Rebbe was sitting and learning, and his Chava came. He came to the Rebbe. He came to see his friend. Hashem Aleichem, how are you? So he was learning Masechta. Masechta Gittin, and he was holding Dav Dalet, so we're talking about something they were learning. Okay, sure. Next day, he came, and he was learning a Daf Mem. So he said, Yipsafoni nu say that I'm learning. From yesterday, you're Daf Dalet, and today you're Daf Mem. Okay, he said goodbye, and that was it. Came home. They had a factory, and there was a fire in the factory, and the factory burnt down. So, as a chosed, he doesn't think that it's mikra and nikra. It wasn't that stamazoi. So he realized that there was something. He came back to the Alter Rebbe, and he asked the Alter Rebbe what happened. The Alter Rebbe said, I don't see what happened, Taka. You were not... he said, I see there's a psak peid on you, but I don't know what it is. Maybe you can figure it out yourself. So he said he doesn't know. He left, and then he realized that maybe but he was a joke. He told us Tava, Sanu said, excuse me, he became a Gera Chosa today. So that today they have there's a little friction in Ger because there's that if you learn Gemara, you should go flying or you should. Well, anyway, so he went to his friend to the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe said, he said, did it bother you that we makbid? He said, sure, I'm makbid. What do you think? This is a joke. You went into business for 3 years. So as you know, when you go into business, the more you get, so you eventually with when you do a little bit of it and you make a big revach in the beginning, for a big tircha, and you don't make so much revach, and matzliach right in the business you make. So limited Torah is the same thing. What do you think? I'm turning pages. So he said. So he said, the Mittler Rebbe said, but why are you coming back to ask me about this? So he said he had a big he had a fire and the Alter Rebbe said kpeda. So the Mittler Rebbe said, true, I had a kpeda, and I feel very bad that because of my kpeda that now you had such a hefsed. So the Eibusher should give you that you should go back home and you should make kiflei kiflayim kachoya. That's the way he finishes the story. One more story. He says that Avodas HaKodesh, the Mittler Rebbe, also in Tefillah, that he said that he saw it. He saw it with his eyes that there was a Rosh Hashanah that they davened, and the Mittler Rebbe by Shemon Esrei, you do that the Mittler Rebbe is davening. You didn't see a tenuous on the outside. The Alter Rebbe could roll on the. They said that the Alter Rebbe sometimes they would push a roll on the ground, and Mittler Rebbe davened in a way that he was. He said like a masmer takua ba'oretz, like a metal beam that was takua for 3 hours. I mean, 3 hours. It didn't move. Okay, but the Shemoneh Esrei itself was 3 hours, and he said later. That evening, when he went back home, he went into his room and he changed his undershirt, his shirt. He came to the Suda, and Rabbi Yaakov said he was good friends with the Shamash. I'll tell another few stories in that. And the Shamash said, "Come here. I want to show you something." He said, "Pick up the shirt." He says, "Here's the shirt. Pick up the shirt." He said he picked it up. He realized it was a shayl of schita, and it was so wet that it was a shayl of schita. If you're allowed to pick it up, so even though l'chayr he's standing in one place, you see that his isamkus was so big. So bottom line is that you see that he had that koyach isamkus, which was unbelievably strong. That he had a unbelievable koyach isamkus. They could stand at a stender. Yeah, he couldn't wait to get to his Gemara. And with Shas's Tefillah, he could daven. It looked like he was standing in one space. And really, he was sweating, that his undershirt and the shirt was soaking. It was dripping with water. So, in other words, the koyach of his concentration was very strong. So now we go back to the story. You understand the gewalt of what the Rebbe is trying to tell in the story. That even though it's not the pshat. He heard the baby fall. He thought, whatever, maybe his mother-in-law will take care of it. The bubby will take care of it. No, he be'emes didn't hear the baby fall. It's not the pshat. It's like a we see from all the stories that Hitaka didn't hear. Elamai, the Alter Rebbe said that he should have heard the baby cry. Should have heard the baby cry. Gav Urcha was saying about the godless of the Mittler Rebbe in Limud HaNigla. So a couple of weeks ago, I meet a chaver, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Heller. So he said, I just published a sefer, Chidushim, the Mittler Rebbe, HaMaseches Gittin. So I said, you must be kidding me. And many years ago, I learned with a chavrusa, maybe 20 years ago, in Yeshiva Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan, and we were learning Even Ezer. So the guy went to the library and took out all this for him, and he said, I found one from the Mittler Rebbe, say from Even Ezer. I said, okay, that's nice. So we started to learn, and the emesis that it seemed that it was a digest of all the Rishonim. That the Mittler Rebbe went through all the Rishonim Maseches Gittin, and he wrote it al Seder Simonim and Even Ezer. So he says, I don't see where the chidushim is. I said, I don't know. Maybe there's no chidushim. It's a digest, just like the Beis Yosef. He didn't try to write chidushim. He just gave a digest of all the Rishonim. Okay, as well as give living. So I meet Yosef Yitzchak Heller. Now he just published the sefer. He took pieces and he published it Maseches Gittin. So I said, there's no chidushim here. It's a digest. Ooh, I'm Baruch Hashem. Ich bin doch lebendig geheid. I insulted a chassid. This was nach an Eastern Parkway. Anyway, you should know that according to Yosef Yitzchak Keller, was to listen that it's not a digest of Rishonim and not Yemina Bora Shemayim, but not a Smoila Bora Oretz, that there is Chidushim Atzumim, and that by going through a digest and the Rishonim, he really tried to answer many kashas, and you should know, he says, I'm telling you, you're going to read my sefer and you'll know that you made a big mistake. So I didn't read a sefer, but I just brought it to you because I just amused at this. Yeah. Zog. But that was on L'chaim. Okay. L'chaim.
But another beautiful story, Yaakov Kadaner. Another beautiful story I read this week. The Michael Rebbe.
I just say, a friend of mine, whatever, the Rebbe came to 770, middle of the winter, and he followed the Rebbe 30 seconds later into the room. The Rebbe was still in his coat. Listen, he already had the sefer open. He had just walked in. He walked in 30 to Rebbe already while he was taking off the coat, he was sitting and learning. The second he walked in, he opened up the sefer and he was learning, and he hadn't taken off his coat yet. And then he was learning and playing, and while he was learning, he was taking off his coat, whatever. But the second he walked into the room, he followed the Rebbe. Mamish, I don't even know if it was 30 seconds. I think the Rebbe already had a sefer open.
L'chaim. No, das erzählen am meisten.
Very close with Yaakov. He was buying tobacco. He was buying and selling tobacco. And in his city, he wasn't making too much money. He hardly made any fun of it. They decided to go out of his city, and maybe he's going to be able to buy better and to sell more. So before he goes on a trip, he starts by Yaakov Kadaner, and he tells him the story that he wants to go to Nezhin. Because Nezhin maybe was a big tobacco city, I don't know, maybe a big merchant, someday he wants to go to Nezhin. He wants to have a bracha from Rabbi Yaakov Kadaner. Yaakov Kadaner tells him, you should have a tzlocha, you should do well, but do me a favor. You're going to be in Nezhin. You know the story, Rabbi Morozov.
I don't know.
Even if I'm sure you know. Correct me if I'm saying it. And while you're in Nezhin, he said, do me a favor. Stop by the middle of it. Oil. He came finally in Nezhin. Not only did he make money, but he lost money. The money he had, he lost everything, and he didn't see anything happening. And he owed money, and he says, I came from my town, and I'm in Nezhin, I'm not even making, I'm even losing the money that I have, and I still have money. And he remembered that Yaakov Kadaner told him, he cut off Mr. Rebbe. He came, he said, he went in the middle of the morning. That's going to be later. He went to the middle of Rebbe's tziyun, and the weather was very cold. And he says the whole time that he was traveling on the road, he didn't feel the cold. Over here, all of a sudden, he felt the cold, and he couldn't control himself. It wasn't warm up. He was shivering from the cold, and something hit his head. Something stuck in his head. He says, "How is my wife and the children are doing home?" Now we're going to go back to his wife and his children. His wife all of a sudden took sick. So they called the doctor, and the doctors told him, we have no idea what to do. We don't know what to do, and the time is limited. He fell in a coma. He became unconscious. And the doctor said, it's mamash. It's a few hours before she was hospital fire. And he was standing by Mittel Rebbe's theory, and he started riding a fan, and he couldn't ride the fan. His hands were shaking. He was shivering from the cold, and his hands were shaking. And then he somehow got his strength together. And the first fan that he wrote, the Mittel Rebbe, was about his wife. He didn't know what happened to his wife, because he's in a different city. But something hit him. And he asked the Mittel Rebbe for a box for his wife. And then he wrote one for himself, and he was crying bitterly. And he asked Hatzlach. He told the Mittel Rebbe that not only I didn't make money, I lost money, and I owe money. I came a couple of hours, and I'm going home empty. So he was crying bitterly, and all of a sudden, he feels warm going through his body. A few minutes later, or a few hours later, warm going through his body. And he said he was there for a couple of hours, and he didn't feel the cold. He turns around, he made a couple of good deals in Yadrin, but he was able to pay back the money that he owed, and he was able to come home with a good profit. As he comes home, he goes right away to Rabbi Yaakov Kanana with his business clothing or whatever, with the traveling clothing. So Rabbi Yaakov Kanana tells him, why you can't move first? Why didn't you go? You're from a long trip. Why didn't you go home first? He says, I have to tell you something. He starts telling him the whole story. Tells him the whole story. And after the story, he goes home. He goes home and he's asking his wife, how are you? What's doing? What's happening over here? So his wife tells him that she took sick and the doctor gave up on her fully. They didn't know what to do for her, and then she became unconscious. And for sure, once she became unconscious, they couldn't do nothing for her. And the wife tells him a story. He says, all of a sudden, I'm laying in a bed, and I felt like I'm gaining my strength back. Slowly, she's gaining her strength back, and she was able to wake up from the unconsciousness. And he's asking her when was approximately the time or the date that you felt better. So she tells him approximately this and this hour, this and this date. So that's the date that I was by the middle of a Rebbe. And he went to tell Rabbi Yaakov the story. So he says, if I could imagine, he tells him, if when we saw some, what they could do, how much more could they do? So Yankov Kadana tells him, tells him the story.
So
How much Mittel Rebbe stories?
It's unbelievable. Okay.
Maybe I lost few details down the road that it's the bottom line. I'm sure I lost a couple of details.
Good, l'chaim. So back to the Rebbe story. So this is what the Rebbe wants. So we should learn from the story. As Ayida Shekin Veint, as Alherem Ayida Shekin Veint. So that should be this year. And Yud Kislev, that the Rebbe always said that the Farbrengen goes when the Farbrengen. The Rebbe said that what's a simon that we really went into Farbrengen. Nayem the Pagra. That the next day there's a shinui. It's a taket. In us there should be a shinui, and all the sipurim that we hear from the Mittel Rebbe. Heinen avodah toires, and heinen avodah atfila, and heinen hearing another yid cry. That it should be nikras and Metz Hashem after this Chagagula Yud Kislev. L'chaim. Pada b'shalai, nafshi mikerav li, ki v'rach b'mayim. Imadi Kada Beshalom Nafshi Mikravli Kiverabim Himayo Imadi Yishma Keleveya Ein V'Yoshe Kedem Selah Yishma Keleveya Ashere Khalifa Islam Yaru Eloi Eloi Chaim Legrocha Bishalom Yamama Chile Belisai Kalkumach Mavois Tibokrali Raku de Maramishem Hey Mother Sifai Shleich Hashem Ye'avecha Tu Yechalkelecha Hayitein Le'elam Moitlat Tzadik Ve'ato Elohim Toiridem Ve'shachas Ve'ato Elohim Toiridem Ve'shachas Ayan She'Elohim Namim Omir Lo yechetzu yemeyeh Eman she'edamim Damim Omir Lo yechetzu yemeyeh Vani Eftach Vani Eftach Vani Eftach Vani Eftach Vani Eftach Vani Eftach Usually Sunday night we learn up Sashtikul Asicha, and why shouldn't there be Malam B'Kodesh with the Farbrengen and learn a Shtikul Sicha, even if it's a little more of a kitzer. And recently we have been doing the Shtiklach and the Zoyar that have from the Rebbe's father, and these were Dvorim Chavivim to the Rebbe. And this week, at the end of the Parsha, we said Eid Agal Hazeh that there is a mechitza, and that's all the Sifrei Kabbalah say that that's the remez of Lag Ba'omer, that there is a mechitza, that you shouldn't go over the other side, but the Rav Shimon Machai breaks the mechitza, that we should be able to bring down from Pnimis HaTorah into Nigla the Torah, and that was a big koch in the Mittler Rebbe. Let's learn a shtickle from the Zohar with the Rebbe's father, with the kitzer from the Rebbe's biur on this. Reb Shimon Nofak le Krayas. Reb Shimon went out to town. He bumped into these three chachamim. Even the chamaloin. When he saw them, Omar had tusi the iraisa itzrechocha. Chidushim from the Torah is what I need today. That's what I need. Yosvat losa ilain. So they all sat down. Boy, when he got up to leave, so what's the pshat? Could be they weren't ready to say divrei Torah, but now that they saw he got up, so they saw business is business, so they wanted to get him to stay. Akapon, what the pshat zal non zayin? Kadboy lemeza, when he get up to leave, pasach kol chad v'chad kro, each one opened up a pshat in a different post. Rab Abba pasach v'yamar, Rab Abba said, Hashem Amar Avram, Achri Poret Loit Mimason and Echor, hey, that you should look from all four sides, and this Lachot Neno Lazarecha, that this land I'm going to give to you and your children. Zokef like Kadosh Baruch Al Ara the Yisrael, the Eibishter picked him up over Eretz Yisrael, V'chamilei, and he showed him, the Yuk Shira Besitter the Alma, they showed him all four corners of the world, V'havechame Koila. Because in other words, the Zohar asks earlier, he said, how could he see, like we mentioned last week on Sunday, 400 parsa. They picked him up and he saw all four corners of the Eretz Yisrael, and it's as if he saw the whole Eretz Yisrael. A person that sees Reb Shimon, Kol Alma Chomi, he saw the whole world. You don't have to see anymore. If you look at the face of Reb Shimon, Shanal's Gezen. Chedvosa de Eila Vetata, because that's the joy of the Oilmas Lalyonim and Oilmas Tachtoinim. Pasach, Reb Chia v'Omer Reb Chia said, it says in the Pasach, this land I'm going to give you into your descendants, which was said to Yaakov in his dream, in last six Pasham Vayetze, Kafel Kadosh Baruch Hu Kol Avli Di Yisrael, they wish to fold it up to Eretz Yisrael. Ashtach Hu Aser Kololo de Kolare. That place that he slept had a close of the whole Eretz Yisrael. Ma hu aser iu klolo de kolare. If Shimon diu betzinen de kolare alachas kama v'kama. Ma that he slept on a piece of land that had in it the whole Eretz Yisrael. A person that looks at Shimon, alachas kama v'kama, he's looking at the whole Eretz Yisrael. The shokel kechol alma, because if Shimon Bayachai his value is as the whole world put together.
Then he's bigger than Yaakov?
No, he's bigger than the whole land. It's a madoch that we said that they rolled up the whole land of Eretz Yisrael. Yaakov slept in it. So if you as Eichet to look at Shimon, you're good. You it's like the whole Eretz Yisrael is rolled onto your head, under your head. It says in this week's Pasha that Leah said, now I'll thank Hashem. So the question is, and the first baby and the second, the third, you shouldn't thank Hashem. Why only Apam Oid Hashem? Yehuda di bro revia lekursaya ashlam lekursaya, because he was the fourth wheel. Until Yehuda came, we didn't have, because David HaMelech Mashiach comes from Yehuda, and they're the fourth regal of the Merkav Elyon. If Shimon the Nor Kol Alma Beiraisa, if Shimon that he shines the whole world with his Torah. And all kinds of light come out of him. The Rebbe's father writes, Reb Abba Pasach b'Pasach d'Avram, Reb Chia b'Pasach d'Yaakov, Reb Yosef b'Pasach d'Leah, v'kulam dorish al ma'alas Reb Shim. Kol echad yeshlama kol echem em dorish b'pchinosayu. Everyone wrote based on the way he was masik. There's a bir nifla from the Rebbe. If you look at the Haskomas that the three children of the Alter Rebbe gave to the Tanya, so there's three children, the Alter Rebbe, each one writes a little differently. The title. The Rebbe has a biur nifla on it. The bottom line is each one was kefi b'chinosehu. That the Mittler Rebbe, who was the Rebbe, wrote that Tzina Kaddish is who's my father. But the other two brothers nicht verstanden what this meant, that they weren't in that position. The one that was at Rebbe wrote that, and the one that was Marona Rabbana, he was a Rav and he was a Poisik, was it my father? So Al Derech Zeh over here, that each one darshaned from their neshama, and they said, I understand the idea of Avram. The Abba said, I understand Avram, and I could see, because my neshama is from Avram, I could see this in Reb Shimon, the Bechina of Avram Avinu. And the second one said, I understand the neshama of Yaakov Avinu, and I see it in Reb Shimon. And the third one understood Leah, because each one is his neshama.
Rabbi, they don't say אין אומרים שבחו של אדם בפניו, רק כאן כולם
A good question. We'll get that in a second. We'll get in a second. Ki Reb Abu al derech Avram. Avram Av Hamoin, Mechen Abba Maloshin Av, V'hu Rav, Shnikr Abba Arichte. His real name was Rav. He was called Abba Ariche. V'hu al derech V'Avram, Shnikr Odom Agodol Ba'anokim, Melachim Pasal Pasal V'Avram. Reb Chia, Hav al derech Yankiv, Kumash Kosa Balakutei Teure, Ein Sham, Melachim Pasal Pasal Yankiv. V'Yoyse, Shemasa, Mispere, V'Yoyse, Zelakim, Al derech Leah, Ki Leah, B'chin Hashem Alakim, Mi Leah, and Pasal Pasal Leah, V'chala Drosh, Tzhoy, L'Shvachir, Tzhoy, Shimon. Kishimon misparoi Avram Yaakov Leah b'mechuvet. Okay, Psuk Avram Yaakov Leah you shiv chidrib Shimon. The Rebbe explains like this. The Rebbe always said that his father didn't have enough ink and time and space to write, so he'll be mashlim the biur. What does Reb Shimon need compliments for? So all in the Zohar, there's a lot of times Reb Shimon is being complimented, and what's the idea of the compliments? So we were having a discussion about the Seder and Brachas. So Mamish, Kapitzel Kind, she's 6 years old. She's Tati, what's the difference? Why does Boida Minim Mazonis get to be before Shahakal? So I said, what compliment do you like better? If I say you're good to Meidela, or I say that you have Avas Yisrael, and we're working a lot on Avas Yisrael towards a little sister. So she says, Avas Yisrael, that's a bigger compliment. Good to Meidela is, So that's why when we want to thank the Eibishter, so saying the Eibishter is a guter, shahakulni bedvora is a regular compliment. When we say Boida Minim Mazonis, it's a special compliment that comes first. So why are we saying compliments to our kindlach? Because we want to bring out the milas that we see in them, that it should come out begoler. The Chachamim that saw certain things in Reb Shimon wanted to compliment them, to bring out these things, that it should come to them, it should come out begolut. But each one could only compliment, it's not stam in the luftarein, a compliment that they're just saying words. That each one of these three chachamim understood a different bechina. One understood Avram, and the other one understood Yaakov, and one understood Leah. Why dafka these three? What's the nakuda of these three? Because these are three basic steps in Avodas Hashem. Avram Avinu, Avram Oyavi, which is Ava, which is connected to Chesed, which comes from Re'iyah, when you see something and you see it so delicious and good, and you're nimshach to it. So that's Avram Avinu, and that's the first thing, Re'iyah and Elakus. So Reb Abba, which is Av, in Maloshin Av, Chochma is Av, Avram Avinu is Av Hamongoyim. So he saw and he wanted to bring out in Reb Shimon Bar Yochai this thing of Re'iyah and Elakus. A second step in Elakus is to bring down Elakus down to the Oretz. You have to bring it down to the lowest level. Yaakov Avinu is his kedusha is makotza lakotza titan emes liYaakov. Aleph mem tov is the beginning and the middle and the end of the aleph base. Briach haktichen shma briach makotza lakotza goes, takes it from the highest place and brings it to the lowest place. So that's the idea of Reb Chia. And that's the idea. That's why in the first pasuk was a pasuk of Avram Avinu, was that the Eibishter picked him up and showed him that it's Yisrael from a helicopter. The Mavizn Malamayla Lamata to look at the whole Eretz Yisrael. By Yaakov, when he gave him Eretz Yisrael, Kippel Kol HaOretz, he wrapped up the Oretz, because Oretz is Manaman Malchus, Eretz El Yoino, So that's why the first derash, which was from Reb Abba, which is the Inyan of Av Chochma, was a pasuk which talks about a ear, seeing Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, seeing Hashem. The second Tana, which is Reb Chia, which is connected to Yaakov Avinu, whose neshama was connected to Yaakov Avinu, talking about you bring a lakus down to the Oretz. And but then there has to be in Maisa B'Poel, from Malchus Datzilus is to come into Maisa B'Poel, Kabbalah Sar, which is the idea of the Amos, and mainly Leah. And that was the idea of Rabbi Yossi. That was the idea of Rabbi Yossi. And since these are three major steps in Avodas Hashem, and what was happening, Reb Shimon is Nafak L'Karyaisa. What's the make Nafak L'Karyaisa? D'Chtoirosam Nasai. And Lamai, we do find in the Gemara in Shabbos that he said, Ezel Ike Ma'adi Tokem B'Mosa, that even if Shimon Beichai, who's Terosim Nasai, says, is there something to fix? And the historians say it was a story in the city of Tveria. Be it as it may, the Gemara says it was a story that came to the city, and the place was full of Kuras HaMesim. It's with my children now in Tveria. Kids couldn't understand. Why would Taket and Mendel Haradok is very choshev, and all the tzaddikim, but the whole beach is all cemetery. Wouldn't it be nice if there were a few houses on the beach, maybe a few hotels on the beach? But nicht getracht von them. Getracht zu machen a Beis HaChayim on the beach. Nicht getracht zu machen hotels on the beach. Akoponim, Nachzel and Yanenu. So these are the three things. There is Avram, and these are three steps in Avodas Hashem. And why do we need now these three steps in Avodas Hashem? Because Reb Shimon is Nafik Lekarta. He's going out to do in the Welt, Farbrengen Alakus in the Welt, and therefore he as Daminle Malamaila they should meet these three Tanoim Dafka, and each one told them a compliment that to bring out the Maila and Reb Shimon of these three things, because Reb Shimon had the idea of seeing a lakus, the koyach of bringing down the lakus in the Oretz, and furthermore to bring it down in Maisa B'Poel, which is the idea of the Amos. In general, Ava Aim, the father is the idea, but to bring it B'Poel, the Tinnik is through the Amos. So this is the closest subdue. Back to Rabbi Yaakov Kadaina. Rabbi Yaakov Kadaina said that he saw Re'iyas Halakus by the Mittel Rebbe in an unbelievable way. He said that his father-in-law was a Masnagid, and when he became a Chassid, he realized that he's going to have a problem going home. You're going to go home. It's not so safe. So Mittel Rebbe said to him at one point, "Why are you not going home? Your wife is waiting for you." So he said, "It's not safe." So the Mittel Rebbe said, "I know your father-in-law. He's a very nice person. He's a Baal Midas Toivus, and he's going to be soivel a lot of Yisurim from the people of town because they're going to tell him to get rid of you, but he's not going to do it." So he says he was mishtoimim in his mind, like I never spoke to the Mittel Rebbe about my father-in-law. It's true, he's a nice guy, but so he said, "I'm telling you, he's Ishtom v'Yoshur," and he said over the same thing. If at Leiden, he will suffer with people in town. They'll pressure him, but there's a sachakol. There's nothing wrong. So why don't you go back home? It says Kachava, exactly what the Mittel Rebbe has said happened. He thought his father-in-law would be upset. His father-in-law accepted him warmly, and his wife was happy, and the family was happy. But as soon as he came home, the town found out, and everyone was pressuring him that you have to get rid of him. So his father-in-law said, "Listen, I can't involve this. Gedol Yisrael this way, Gedol Yisrael that way. Sheval Tasa Odiv." He said his father-in-law never, and he said the Rav of the city came himself. I'm not getting involved. So he saw that the Mittel Rebbe told him, and Kachav, he saw the Ian Lakus. And then he saw a few more stories. We saw the Ian Lakus. He said that he was involved in these two stories, and he was an Eid Neman to tell these stories. The Mittel Rebbe went to Shklov. By the way, the previous story now I remember was in Polotsk. This story is in Shklov, and he stayed in the house of a rich chassid. The whole chassid was in a different Medina. But say his wife was period Chsanya for the chassidim, and the Mittel Rebbe was there. He darshan the Drush and Chassidus for a long time, and at night at night he came to his achsanya. Next morning, the woman was crying. She said the Rebbe ate treif. What happened? She said that she had a turkey, she had a chicken, and she brought it to the shecht for the Mittel Rebbe. Turns out chicken was treif. Okay, so she got another chicken. But the first chicken was sachvarta, very good chicken. And that day, the parents were supposed to come sign with her husband the deal. And she knew her husband's not home, but she's going to sign the deal. That was the derech. If her husband wasn't home, she would take care of the business. So she took a treife pot and brought the hindel. She cooked it. She'll give it as a gift to the parents. Lock, stock, and barrel, machaya. Get rid of the treife pot and the treife chicken. Sajalke, to throw it out in the garbage. So she had that, and she had it in the side. And then she took a new pot and she toiveled it, and she took the chicken and she cooked it for the Mittel Rebbe. And now she looks at the chicken that she got in the Mittel Rebbe, the cover's there, no one touched it. And the other one, she sees a few pieces is missing. So the Shamash, the Mittel Rebbe, said, "What do you think? You think the Mittel Rebbe eats treif?" You know what happened last night? I brought the food to the Mittel Rebbe. And he washed, he made a moitzi, he ate a piece of bread. Then he took a fork and he put it in a plate. And he looked up, he said, "I'm not going to eat it. Please don't eat it as well." And that was it. So he said, "Rebbe, today all you had was 2 cups of tea. You have to eat something." The Mittel Rebbe said, "I'm asking you, please don't eat it." He finished his piece of bread that gebenched, that was it. So what do you think? The Mittel Rebbe is going to eat treif? Chassidim heard the story. It's a Gemara Natum. And we're talking about the Toisves, and Toisves says, the Gemara says, Lo Yodeh Tzadik Kol Oven. Toisves says, talking about Achila V'Shtiyah Take. I could learn from the Pinchas Ben Yoed. And there was a whole talk. The Mittel Rebbe heard that they were talking about it. He said, "No, it's not a pella, it's Tadava Pashut." Really what happened was that when I put the fork into the food, so I knew that it's treif. That's it. Very simple. So simple. And then you know how it works? Very simple. He said at that time, he was friends with the Shamash of the Mittel Rebbe. And the Mittel Rebbe Shamash said, "You think this is great? I'll show you something that's big. But to keep it between us." After the next day, when the Mittel Rebbe said his drush, afterwards he said, "Come with me." And he brought him into the Mittel Rebbe's room. He said, the Mittel Rebbe was standing, his eyes were open. He says, "He can't hear us talk, and he can't see us." And he says, "You want to see something?" He moved the Mittel Rebbe's hand, and that was it. He's playing games, this guy. And he said, "But I couldn't stay in the room. So my Rebbe standing there, playing games. I left." Next day, he said to the Mishamish, "So what happened?" He said he stood there for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, he broke into a smile. He stood there weiter. And then he went and he davened Maidev and he sat down for Suda with a big smile. So I said, "Rebbe, what's the smile?" So he said, "I chazed over the Maimer Kedarki after I chazed the Maimer to the Alter Rebbe, my father. And my father came with the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. And the
dream.
Yeah, I guess. And like the story of Darizal, with the 70, 80 years that he said I have. And they were masking. They were masking that it's there was what I said was blot, and they had a lot of orders to tell me. So besimcha. Okay, so that's called seeing a likus. Now that's called seeing a likus. And why do we know the story? Because Reb Shimon goes out to town, so he gets koyach from other Tanoim and Amiroim. From who give him koyach, compliment him, tell him that they could do it. So probably we know the stories to know that if we're not yet at the dag of seeing a lakus, we should connect to the tzaddikim that are seeing a lakus and learn from their Torah, and it'll rub off. We'll connect to it. And that's how Nofak L'Karyaisa. That's how we go into town. So he gave me the koyach to do our avodas Hashem. L'chaim, Chag HaGeula of Yud Kislev Take, all the heroes from the Mittler Rebbe should rub off on us. And we know that the Mittler Rebbe, that was the idea of the first three Chabad Rabbeim, Chochmah Bina Das and Alakus, that we should be Zoycha Take to connect to these tzaddikim that by them their bechina was Chochmah Bina Das and Alakus. Their Inyan, the whole thing, just like Reb Shimon, that the other Tanoim complimented him, and they gave him the koyach. So the Rabbeim give us a koyach, that we should go with their koyach, Mitzshem, that our eyes should light up with Torah, Saniglas, and Torah Achsidus. We should be Matzlich, Tak, and Avodas Hashem.
Amen. You taught on Shabbos morning from Iketz, in the Eimer, about Hanukkah, how Aaron HaKohen lit up the menorah, and we're supposed to represent the Jew is supposed to represent the menorah, and the Aaron is supposed to represent the tzaddik, as you mentioned. Yeah. So it reminded me of what you were speaking about.
Very good.
Yeah.
Hey, Mosai, Kosimar, Lekshaya, Putsoman, Satabot. Hey, Mosai, Kosimar, Lekshaya, Putsoman, Satabot. Mosai, Kosimar. Lekshaya, Putsoman, Mosai, Hey, Mosai, Kosima, Shaya Butsa, Hey, Mosai, Kosima, Shaya Butsa, Hey, Mosai, Kosima, Shaya Butsa, Kosima, Shaya Butsa, I must By the way, about the song, I mentioned Shabbos this week at the Shloshim, Reb Chaim Valken. Reb Chaim Valken was a Talmud actually of the Mir Yeshiva. He grew up here in Brooklyn. He was considered from the Chol Shavei Balamus. He was a mashgiach in one yeshivas in Yerushalayim, Teres Yisrael. So they Jim, they Matzliach sometimes to chap people. They chapped him like this summer to interview him. Very interesting because he grew up in Crown Heights, and apparently the Empire Stiebel was his father's shul. You know the Empire Stiebel? So he said, he came to Crown Heights. He saw such a beautiful place as Taka now. That's a Mokum Toilet that showed him there all the time.
Wow.
So he had beautiful stories to tell about his father's kesher to the Rebbe. His father used to bring him to Farbrengens. But B'toich Advonim, he said that, and yesterday I told the story that he said, but he said that he asked the Rebbe in a letter the song about Hey Masayka. So it's cute. The Rebbe answers him. He says, I'm not sure who's Machav the Niggin. It's an old Yerushalmi Niggin. Yeah, it's an old Yerushalmi Niggin. The tune. It's an old Yerushalmi Niggin. And someone, the Metoich Anafshi's the connection felt that the words that the Baal Shem Tov, that he said the words is brought. It's brought from the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, the letter that Baal Shem Tov wrote to him, to Toldos Yaakov Yosef, saying that he went to Echel Mashiach, and Mashiach, he said, so the words is authentic. The words is from the Baal Shem Tov that he wrote to Toldos Yaakov Yosef, and the tune is. It never says if someone will come along with a deeper recitedness and Gesundheit, Mitzidoi, could find a new tune for the. So we're waiting for the new tune. Ufa, that's the Yama Vakeva, Sapoina Vanegva. Ufa, that's the Yama Vakeva, Sapoina Vanegva. Ayo, Ufa, that's the Yama Vakeva, ayo. That's the Yama ayo, that's the Yama Vakeva, ayo. Chaim l'chaim. Shekoyach, all those that prepared the Farbrengen, it's an andere Sache. It's a Farbrengen set up nicely. Maybe shall help him. I avoid this Hashem should be azoi.
Can't hear.
No, I guess it's over anyway.
You probably used to keep they produced someone like your father. They produced someone like your father.
Don't forget Alamecha and Nefashot. And today is Shalom Atar.
Oh, sure.
Do we have a minion for that Meyer?
Yeah, of course.
But over.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a thousand to the use of time.
Me, Ian Harris already davened, but I'll answer. We davened by Rabbi Albert. We're short on him. There's very few people tomorrow, so we had to stay. So we had to stay.
Like 4 buses.
We had to stay tomorrow.
That was right across the street.
The name.
It's a miracle. wife came into the room.
Whatever.
She said, I had a bad dream.
Bench.
And I thought I was somewhere else. I thought it was in the morning.